The walls of Xythera Academy shimmered with soft silver light pulsing faintly as if alive. It was the oldest interspecies academy in the Orion Arm, built after the Human Integration Accords, a symbol of unity among species that had once viewed each other only through war and conquest. To most it was a sanctuary of learning. To a few it was a powder keg waiting for a spark. Among thousands of alien students who walked its crystalline halls, there was only one human, Ethan Vale. He was quiet, observant, and painfully aware of his difference. His lungs needed oxygen while most Xytherans breathed trihydrate vapors. His body, dense with muscle and bone, moved with awkward heaviness under the low-gravity domes. But it wasn't his physiology that made him stand out. It was his defiance. Humans were new to the galactic community. Barely 3 decades since first contact, the elder races saw them as reckless primitives, beasts that learned to walk upright and build starships too soon. But Ethan was determined to prove otherwise every day. He endured the whispers that trailed behind him. The Terran thinks he belongs here. His species still fights over food and territory. Primitive, dangerous. He pretended not to hear, focusing instead on his xenobiology coursework. But there was one presence that silenced even the cruelest whisper. The beast. It was called Karanith by the Xytherans, meaning devourer of suns. It was a genetically engineered war creature, once the pride of the Xytheran dominion before the peace treaties banned biological warfare. The Academy kept one in stasis beneath the central dome, a reminder of what unchecked ambition could create. Ethan had seen it once through the observation glass. The thing was enormous. A mass of armored scales, bone spines, and thick sinew coiled like a sleeping god. Its heart rate was faint but steady. Its eyes, when they flickered open, burned with faint amber light. Professor Xythera called it the most dangerous living organism in the sector. But for some reason, Ethan didn't feel fear when he saw it. He felt something else. A strange pull, like the creature was aware of him even through layers of containment fields. That thought haunted him, especially as the days passed and tension in the academy began to build. It started with small things. Power flickers, sudden drops in containment field readings, strange vibrations in the lower levels. Security drones blamed atmospheric interference. Professors dismissed it as calibration errors. But Ethan noticed a pattern. Each event occurred when he was near the containment vault. One night, after most students had left for rest cycle, Ethan stayed behind in the lab to finish his comparative anatomy project. The silence was broken only by the hum of the walls. But then, a low rumble vibrated through the floor. He froze. The lights flickered, dimmed, then steadied again. He heard it, faint but unmistakable, a sound like breathing. Ethan turned slowly toward the lower corridor that led to the containment chambers. The air smelled faintly metallic, like ozone and blood. His heart pounded. Every instinct screamed for him to leave, but curiosity overrode fear. Humans had always been cursed with that flaw. He walked toward the corridor. The deeper he went, the stronger the vibration became, until he could feel it in his teeth. The observation deck loomed ahead, sealed by thick glass. Behind it, the beast's stasis pod shimmered with a fading energy field, and the creature was awake. Its massive chest rose and fell with slow, deliberate rhythm. Its eyes, molten amber, focused directly on him. Ethan stepped closer, whispering without knowing why, "You can see me, can't you?" The creature's spines twitched, its claws flexed against the containment surface. Then, without warning, the lights went red. Sirens blared through the entire facility.
"Containment breach! All personnel evacuate immediately!"
Ethan stumbled backward as the glass wall cracked like ice. The beast pushed against the barrier once, twice, and with a thunderous crack it shattered. The shockwave threw him against the wall. Shards of glass and plasma energy seared the floor around him. The creature rose to its full height, 10 meters of fury and living muscle, and roared. The sound wasn't just noise, it was force. The ceiling trembled, alarms screamed, security drones swarmed in, firing plasma bursts that glanced off its scales like sparks off armor. Ethan crawled to his knees, blood running from a gash above his eye. He expected the creature to lunge at him, to crush him like an insect. Instead, it paused. The beast turned its head, lowering its gaze, its breathing slowed. Then, with a sound almost like a growl and a sigh combined, it stepped over him, shielding him from the incoming drone fire. Plasma bolts struck its back, burning into hide that didn't yield. The creature bellowed, slamming a claw into the nearest drone, sending it crashing into the wall in a burst of sparks. Ethan watched in disbelief. It wasn't attacking him. It was protecting him. He didn't understand why. But in that moment, some instinct told him what to do. He shouted up at the towering creature, voice hoarse from smoke.
"This way! Follow me!"
It turned its massive head toward him again, eyes burning with intelligence. Then, impossibly, it obeyed. Together they ran through the collapsing corridors of Xythera Academy, a human student and the galaxy's most feared weapon, escaping into the chaos as alarms wailed behind them. When the outer walls breached and the cold light of Xythera's twin moons flooded in, Ethan turned to see the academy in ruins. Drones circled above like vultures, scanning for survivors. The beast stood beside him, its breath misting in the air, its tail twitching slowly. And then it spoke, not in words, but in a pulse of sound that resonated through his chest like a second heartbeat. He didn't understand the language, but he understood the meaning. "You called, I came." Ethan stared at the creature, and for the first time in his life he didn't feel alone. The wild zones of Xythera were nothing like Earth. The sky shimmered green at dusk, as though some ancient aurora had been trapped beneath its atmosphere. Trees grew in spirals, translucent veins of bioluminescence pulsing faintly under their bark. The air carried the tang of minerals and alien pollen that made Ethan's lungs ache. He stumbled through the dense undergrowth, following the monstrous silhouette ahead. The beast, the Karaneth, moved with silent grace that seemed impossible for something its size. Each step made the ground tremble, yet its movements were precise, almost mindful of him trailing behind. They had fled the academy through the shattered southern corridor, crossing a frozen ravine under plasma fire. Ethan's clothes were torn, his hands raw and bleeding, his mind spinning with shock. He had no plan, no idea where they were going, only that staying near the creature somehow felt safer than returning. When they finally stopped beside a shallow lake glowing with algae, Ethan collapsed, gasping for breath. The beast crouched a few meters away, lowering its horned head toward the water. For a long moment it didn't move, its reflection rippling in the green light. Ethan broke the silence first. "Why did you protect me?" No answer came in words, but the creature's eyes shifted toward him. In their molten depths he thought he saw memory. Pain, confusion, recognition. "You could have killed me. Everyone expected you to." A low vibration filled the air, a sound like a sigh carried through metal. Ethan realized it wasn't just sound, it was communication. The beast wasn't mindless. Its thoughts were deep, slow, deliberate, ancient. He pressed his hand to his chest and said softly, "Ethan." Then he pointed toward the creature. It tilted its head. Then, with surprising gentleness, it struck its chest with a claw that left a faint spark against its armor like hide. "Karaneth," Ethan murmured, repeating the sound as best he could. The creature blinked and the air around it shifted. A faint resonance, almost approval. But before the strange peace could settle, the night shattered with a distant explosion. The horizon flared with blue light. Pursuit drones, they had found their trail. Karaneth turned instantly, its muscles coiling, spines flaring as it growled deep enough to shake the trees. Ethan's pulse quickened. "They're coming for you," he said. Then, realizing the truth, he added, "No, they're coming for us." The creature's tail lashed once, a sign of decision. Without hesitation, it crouched low and looked directly at him. Ethan frowned, not understanding, until it extended one clawed forearm like a ramp. "You want me to get on?" Karaneth gave a low rumble that could only mean yes. Ethan hesitated only a moment before climbing onto the creature's back, gripping the ridges of its armored neck. The skin beneath was warm, impossibly alive, pulsing with energy that seemed to sync with his heartbeat. Then the beast moved. It leapt into the forest with terrifying speed, every stride covering meters. Branches snapped, leaves scattered in spirals of glowing dust. Drones screamed overhead, spotlights cutting through the trees. Plasma bursts lit the dark. Ethan ducked low as the creature twisted between trunks, using its bulk as a shield. One blast struck its flank, searing deep. The smell of scorched flesh filled the air. Karaneth roared, not in pain but rage. With a single bound it slammed into a clearing, pivoted, and lashed its tail through the air. The resulting shockwave cracked like thunder. 3 drones exploded midair, their debris raining down like metal rain. Ethan held on tightly, heart hammering.
Keep going. Don't stop.
They reached the ridge beyond the forest, overlooking the canyon that split the continent, a deep scar filled with swirling mists. Karaneth slowed, breathing heavily. The wound on its flank glowed faintly, leaking a fluid that shimmered like molten gold. Ethan slid down, landing beside it. He could see the damage, a cauterized gash along the muscle. "We need to stop the bleeding," he muttered. The creature tilted its head again, watching as he tore strips from his torn uniform and pressed them against the wound. The alien flesh beneath was smooth, almost glassy, yet alive. He expected it to burn his hands, but instead it pulsed faintly under his touch. "You're built to fight wars, aren't you?" he said quietly. "But you chose to protect me." "Why?" Karaneth's eyes flickered. A sound like distant thunder rippled from its chest, but this time the resonance carried emotion. Ethan couldn't translate it, but Sunter, it wasn't random. It wasn't instinct. The creature remembered something, or someone. A command long buried in its genetic memory: guard the fragile. Protect the helpless. Humans, it seemed, had created something similar once, guardian programs written into machines to protect their creators. Perhaps Xytherans had done the same. Perhaps to Karenith. Ethan wasn't just a random being, he was the echo of a forgotten bond. Ethan met its gaze. Then we're both out of place. Huh, you. A relic from a war no one remembers. Me, a student they never wanted. The creature exhaled, a slow gust of warm air that rustled the grass. Before Ethan could say more, a sudden flicker of light appeared across the sky. Search beacons. Xytheran interceptors were spreading across the valley. He could hear the distant hum of their engines. They won't stop, Ethan said bitterly. They think you're a weapon, not a living being. If they find you, they'll tear you apart. Karenith's spines flared, glowing faintly blue, the same hue as the pursuing lights. An idea sparked in Ethan's mind. He glanced at the wounded creature, then at the terrain below, a network of ancient caverns carved by volcanic vents. If they could get inside, they might lose the patrols. This way, he said, pointing toward the misted cliffs. We can hide there. The beast gave a low growl of acknowledgement. Ethan climbed back up, and they moved again, descending the jagged slope, slipping into the darkness below. The air grew cooler, thicker. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. Eventually, the only sounds were their breaths and the soft drip of mineral water from above. Ethan slid off once they reached a vast chamber. Crystals embedded in the walls glowed faintly, bathing them in blue light. Karenith settled down, folding its wings. Ethan hadn't noticed them before. Skeletal yet powerful, and let out a long, rumbling sigh. Ethan leaned against the stone wall, exhaustion overtaking him. His voice trembled as he whispered, "They'll call me a traitor for helping you." The creature's eyes closed halfway. A faint pulse answered from its chest. It felt like comfort. For the first time since the academy, Ethan smiled. "Guess that makes two of us." Then, as sleep overtook him, he didn't see the faint light pulsing from the beast's wound, light that crept along its body, forming intricate patterns like circuitry. Nor did he notice that the same faint glow had begun tracing along the veins in his own hands. Something had changed between them, something neither human nor alien fully understood. And far above, in the ruins of Xythera Academy, the professors had already begun to realize what had escaped, not just a monster, but an awakening. By the time Ethan awoke, the cavern was glowing faintly with morning light filtering through cracks in the stone ceiling. He blinked, disoriented. For a moment he didn't remember where he was. Then he saw the creature lying beside him, its massive chest rising and falling with slow rhythm. Karenith looked different. The wound from the plasma fire had nearly closed, its skin knitting together with luminous strands of gold. Ethan reached out instinctively but stopped halfway. The faint markings that had crawled across his arms during the night still shimmered softly under his skin, like traces of the same energy that pulsed within the beast. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. Karenith stirred, lifting its head. Its amber eyes flicked toward his arm, then back to his face. Another low vibration filled the chamber. Communication again, faint but layered with something that almost felt concerned. Ethan swallowed. "You did this, didn't you, when you shielded me?" The creature blinked once, slowly. "Are we connected?" he asked, half afraid of the answer. The air trembled faintly and Ethan's vision blurred for an instant. Images flickered through his mind. Not words, but sensations. Cold metal, chains, fire, and through it all, a soft sound like a heartbeat echoing across uns. He gasped, stepping back as the vision faded. "I saw you. In a lab being made." Karenith's gaze remained fixed on him, unblinking. Ethan's thoughts race. If it's sharing its memories, that means some kind of neural link, symbiotic maybe. But why me? Before he could think further, the ground above them rumbled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The creature rose instantly, muscles tense, nostrils flaring. Then the sound came, metallic hums, synchronized footsteps. Not drones, soldiers. Ethan's pulse spiked. He crawled toward a fissure in the wall and peered through. Through the gaps, he saw flickers of blue armor and the distinctive sigils of the Xytheran Dominion. Elite retrieval units. "They sent the enforcers," he whispered. "They'll kill you this time. They won't risk another breach." Karenith growled low and deep, a sound that reverberated through Ethan's bones. But this wasn't rage, it was warning. "Stay back." Ethan clenched his fists. "No, we can't keep running. They'll track your energy signature no matter where we go." He looked again at the glowing markings on his arms, then back at the beast. A dangerous idea took root. "Maybe we don't run," he said softly. "Maybe we hide in plain sight." He stepped closer to Karenith. The creature's gaze narrowed. If we're connected, Ethan continued, maybe I can suppress your energy field through mine. You saved me, let me return the favor. The creature gave a short, low growl. Doubt, maybe fear. Ethan touched its armored chest just above where he knew its heart must be. Trust me. The contact hit like lightning. A surge of heat raced up his arm, filling his vision with gold. His knees nearly gave out, but he held firm. The glow from Corineth's spines began to dim, pulse by pulse, until the creature's body faded into the same cold hues as the stone around them. Outside, the approaching footsteps stopped. Ethan held his breath. Containment scan shows negative. A mechanical voice echoed faintly through the cracks. Residual biop signatures only. The subject is not here. Another voice, sharper, older, possible. The Terran's link residue is strong. Continue the sweep. Ethan's heart thudded painfully. He could feel Corineth trembling slightly under his hand, restraining its instinct to lash out. Sweat trickled down his face. Minutes crawled like hours. Then, finally, the footsteps began to fade. The hum of the soldiers' scanners dimmed until only silence remained. Ethan exhaled shakily and released his hand. Corineth exhaled too, a deep rumbling sigh that sent a small gust of air through the cavern. The glow in its spine slowly returned, faint but steady. That actually worked, Ethan said weakly, collapsing to his knees. His vision swam for a moment. Gus, I'm learning fast. The creature lowered its head, watching him. A low tone resonated approval. Ethan managed a laugh, exhausted. You're welcome. For a while neither moved. Then Corineth shifted, curling one clawed limb toward him in a gesture that could only mean rest. Ethan sat beside it, leaning against its warm flank. He'd never felt so small yet so strangely safe. As the hours passed, the cave dimmed again. Somewhere above, the Xytherans had realized their search was futile. But in the high command chambers orbiting the planet, something else was unfolding. Admiral Vale stared at the holographic display, his eyes narrowing at the energy readings. That creature's biofield merged with a human's. Impossible. The science officer beside him hesitated. And yet, sir, the readings confirm it. The Corineth's neural patterns are now intertwined with the Terran's. Severing the link could destabilize both. Vale's expression hardened. Then the solution is simple. We eliminate both. The officer's gills fluttered nervously. Sir, there is another consideration. The Corineth was not built to bond. It was designed only to obey a genetic command sequence. If it formed a voluntary connection, that means that the human did something unprecedented. Vale finished grimly. And if one of them can control a Corineth? He didn't finish the thought. He didn't need to. Alert the fleet. I want the human alive, the creature, contained if possible. Destroyed if not. Back in the cavern, Ethan stirred from uneasy sleep as Corineth raised its head suddenly, eyes glowing brighter. What is it? Ethan asked groggily. The creature's chest rumbled, a tone so low it felt like the earth itself was warning them. Through the link, Ethan felt a flicker of emotion that wasn't his own. They are coming. He stood, pulse hammering. Then we move again. Corineth crouched, ready to carry him. But before climbing on, Ethan looked up at it and said, We'll find a way to make them see you're more than what they made you. I promise. The beast regarded him in silence for a moment. Then gently it lowered its head until its forehead brushed his shoulder. The faint touch felt like trust. Then they moved into the tunnels that led deeper into Xythera's heart, where no light reached and no scanner could easily follow. Unseen by both, the same golden pulse that connected them now radiated faintly through the stone walls, echoing like a heartbeat across the world, awakening something that had long been dormant in the depths below. The link was growing stronger, and neither of them yet understood the cost. The tunnels descended far deeper than Ethan could have imagined. For days he and Corineth followed the ancient paths, guided by faint bioluminescent trails that pulsed like veins beneath the stone. The air grew denser, richer in minerals, tinged with the metallic scent of energy fields buried beneath the planet's crust. At first, Ethan thought they were heading nowhere, merely running. But Corineth moved with purpose. Every turn, every downward slope seemed known to it, as if it remembered these caverns from long ago. How do you know where we're going? Ethan asked, voice echoing softly. The creature turned its head, one golden eye reflecting the glow from the walls. A single pulse of sound vibrated through Ethan's mind. He caught fragmented images. Flashes of architecture, metal corridors, laboratories half buried in stone. You've been here before, he whispered. You were made here, weren't you? The response came not as sound but as sensation, confirmation tinged with sorrow. Ethan swallowed hard. Then you're not just a weapon. You're the last piece of something they tried to erase. Corineth didn't respond, only lowered its head slightly as if in mourning. The movement sent ripples through the pools at its feet. Beneath the water, faint lights began to flicker, circuitry awakening under the pressure of their presence. A low hum rose through the ground. Ethan felt it beneath his boots before he heard it, a resonance that grew deeper, stronger. The walls pulsed with faint glyphs, ancient markings coming alive. "Karanith," he said softly, stepping closer. "You didn't bring us here to hide. You brought us home." Before the creature could answer, the chamber had opened wide, a hollow dome carved from black stone vast enough to hold a city. In its center lay a colossal sphere half buried in the ground, covered in rusted panels and dormant lights. Karanith lowered itself, growling deep and slow. The sound wasn't aggression, it was reverence. Ethan approached the sphere, brushing away layers of dust and moss until his fingers met the smooth surface beneath. The instant he touched it, light rippled outward like water disturbed by a drop. The sphere's panels shifted, rearranging into geometric patterns that pulsed with golden energy. The same hue that flowed through Karanith's veins. The hum grew louder. Then, a voice, mechanical but warm, filled the chamber. "Unit Karanith sequence restored. Designation confirmed." Ethan froze. The voice continued. "Last registered handler, human origin. Access protocol pending." Karanith stepped forward, claws digging into the stone. Its breathing quickened. The markings across its body ignited, mirroring those on the sphere. Ethan stared, realization dawning. The voice replied, calm and unhurried. "Affirmative. Project Aegis initiated under Terran Defense Directive. Cycle unknown. Biosymbiotic guardian unit designed for adaptive protection." Ethan's throat went dry. "That's impossible. Humanity only joined the Galactic network 30 years ago. We never." Data corruption detected. The voice interrupted. Historical continuity lost. Terran species reemergence. Classified anomaly. Karanith turned toward him. For the first time since their flight, Ethan saw emotion unmistakably reflected in its eyes. Recognition. "You knew," he whispered. "Some part of you remembered us." The creature lowered its head, pressing its forehead lightly against his chest. The contact sent another surge through his mind, clearer this time. He saw flashes of Earth, not as it was, but as it had been, towers reaching into orbit, fleets departing under banners bearing the same sigil now glowing on Karanith's hide. A time when humanity had ventured far beyond its stars long before it forgot. A time when they had built protectors, living, thinking guardians to watch over distant colonies. Then war, fire, silence. Humanity fell, retreated to its cradle, and forgot what it once was. But the guardians endured, drifting across the stars, captured, repurposed, renamed. Karanith was one of them. Ethan staggered as the vision ended. "You were ours," he murmured. "We built you to protect us." Karanith's growl was soft, almost mournful. The sphere pulsed again. "Link stabilization at 70%. Warning, dual consciousness integration detected. Genetic synchronization in progress." Ethan frowned. "What does that mean?" Before he could ask further, pain lanced through his skull. He fell to his knees, clutching his head. The markings on his skin flared, burning gold. Karanith roared, rearing back as the same light burst from its chest. The air trembled, dust lifted from the ground. Through the haze, Ethan heard the sphere's voice again, faint, distorted. "Protocol active, human control matrix rebooting. Guardian class synchronization complete. Heartlink established." Then everything went silent. Ethan gasped, opening his eyes. The world seemed sharper, clearer. He could feel Karanith's pulse as if it were his own, a deep, steady rhythm echoing in perfect time with his heartbeat. He didn't just sense its emotions now, he could hear its thoughts. Slow and resonant. "We are one." He stumbled to his feet. "Karanith, what happened?" The creature's voice echoed inside his mind. "You awakened what was sleeping, the bond between creator and guardian. You have restored what time erased." Before he could respond, a sharp sound broke through the chamber, a high-pitched whine. Ethan turned toward the tunnel they'd entered through. The stone walls glowed red, sensors flaring to life. Then came the metallic thud of boots, followed by the flicker of plasma light. The Xytheran enforcers had found them. Karanith moved instantly, stepping protectively between Ethan and the entrance. But Ethan could see the exhaustion in the creature's movements. The wound might have closed, but its energy was draining fast. He clenched his fists. "No, not this time. We stand together." Karanith looked at him, hesitation flickering. Then resolve. The ground shook as the first plasma blast hit the doorway. Rock shattered, molten fragments spraying across the chamber. A dozen enforcers emerged, weapons raised, armor glowing in the gloom. "Stand down, Terran," their commander shouted. "By order of the Dominion, you are harboring a Class Alpha bioweapon. Surrender and you may live." Ethan stepped forward, standing beneath Corineth's shadow. His voice was steady. "You think it's a weapon, but it was never yours to command." The commander raised his weapon. "You don't understand what that thing is." "I understand perfectly," Ethan said. "It's what humans were once capable of creating. Something built to protect, not destroy, and it's awake again." Corineth's spines flared, the golden light bursting through the chamber. The soldiers opened fire. Plasma bolts filled the air. Corineth roared, spreading its wings wide. Energy surged through Ethan's veins, and instinct took over. He raised his hand. Light exploded outward, forming a shimmering barrier that curved around them both. The bolt struck it and dissolved into sparks. Ethan's eyes glowed faintly, now gold like the creature's. His voice echoed with a resonance that wasn't entirely human. "You wanted to see a monster." The ground split beneath their feet. "Then you'll see what humanity made to protect its own." Corineth launched forward, tearing through the enforcers like a storm of light and thunder. The last thing Ethan saw before the smoke swallowed them both was the commander's stunned expression. A flash of fear and something else. Recognition. Because deep in their records, somewhere in the Dominion's forbidden archives, there were whispers of the old Terran Empire, and the beasts that once walked beside them. The guardians of men, and now one had returned. The battle tore through the ancient chamber like a storm unleashed after eons of silence. The Xytheran enforcers fired in perfect coordination, plasma lances painting blue arcs through the air, their impact scorching the walls. But Corineth moved with impossible precision. Every swing of its tail shattered stone. Every roar rippled through the soldiers' ranks like a concussive wave. Ethan felt every movement, every strike, every wound. The link between them was now complete, and through it, he could sense Corineth's strength fading beneath the onslaught. "They'll kill you," he thought, his mind trembling with the pulse of shared adrenaline. Corineth's voice thundered through his mind, low but steady. "Then I will fall as I was made to, protecting the fragile." "Not this time," Ethan said aloud, teeth clenched. "We're doing this together." He ran toward the sphere in the chamber's center, the same relic that had awakened their link. His hand brushed its surface and light flared upward, streaming through his body like lightning. The entire structure began to hum, shaking dust from the ceiling. The enforcers hesitated. Their commander barked orders, but too late. The ground split beneath them, revealing layers of golden circuitry buried deep below. Ancient, dormant, human. Corineth roared once more, towering above them all. Through the link, Ethan felt its fury, its resolve, and something else, fear. "What are you doing?" he gasped. "Ending the cycle," came the reply. Corineth planted its claws into the ground, wings unfurling wide. The energy rising from the sphere merged with the glow beneath its chest, forming a column of light that pierced the chamber roof. Stone shattered, debris raining down as a beam shot into the night sky above Xythera. Every scanner on the planet registered it. Every ship in orbit turned its sensors toward the surface. In the command vessel high above, Admiral Vale watched in stunned silence as the readings spiked. "Sir," an officer whispered, "that's not a weapon. It's broadcasting." Vale leaned forward, eyes widening. "Broadcasting what?" The answer came seconds later across every channel, every network, every military frequency in the sector. A voice, Ethan's, amplified by the core, resonating with Corineth's pulse. "This is Ethan Vale of Earth. You called us primitives. You said we were reckless, violent, unworthy. But once, long before your empires rose, humanity walked among the stars. We built life from the dust of dying worlds. We made guardians to protect the weak, not to conquer but to preserve. And we forgot. We forgot ourselves, our reach, our promise." The voice deepened, blending with the creature's resonance. "But they didn't forget us. They remembered. They waited." Corineth's roar carried through the comms, echoing across the sky like thunder. The beam from the core spread outward, fracturing into streams that raced across continents, awakening other buried installations, structures long thought to be geological anomalies. On distant worlds, ancient human-built vaults lit up for the first time in tens of thousands of years. Other guardians stirred, the galaxy trembled. Back in the chamber, the enforcers fell to their knees as their weapons shorted out under the wave of energy. The commander looked up at Ethan, awe and horror in his eyes. You've doomed us all." Ethan shook his head. "No. We've just reminded the galaxy who we really are." The beam reached its peak, then collapsed inward. The energy sucked back toward the core like a reverse explosion, drawing everything into a single blinding point of light. Corineth turned toward Ethan, eyes glowing brighter than ever. "The link cannot hold, you must sever it." Ethan stumbled forward, shaking his head. "No, not without you. You already carry me." The light expanded again, swallowing the chamber. Ethan barely had time to feel the creature's warmth surround him one last time before everything dissolved into white. Then silence. When Ethan awoke, the sky was open above him. He lay on a grassy plain beneath Xythera's twin moons, the ruins of the academy visible in the far distance. His body ached, but he was alive. "Karanith," he whispered. No answer. Only the faint hum of wind through the plains. He sat up. The markings on his arms were gone. In their place, faint scars that shimmered briefly in gold when he moved. A shadow passed overhead. Ethan looked up and froze. A figure vast and winged soared against the moonlight, not as massive as before, but unmistakably Karanith, reborn in a smaller, streamlined form, its armor reflecting the stars. It circled once, then descended, landing before him with a tremor that shook the earth. Ethan's heart pounded. "You survived." The creature's thoughts brushed his mind gently. "We endured, bound now not by code but by choice." Ethan stepped forward and placed his hand on its muzzle. "What happens now? Others have awakened. They will remember their purpose. The galaxy will remember yours." He looked toward the horizon, where faint golden lights flickered in the distance, other guardians rising from their slumber. Ships orbiting above had gone silent, unsure whether to flee or bow. Ethan smiled faintly. West class is back in session. And Karanith tilted its head, amused by his tan and almost human gesture. As dawn rose over Xythera, the light painted them both in hues of gold and silver. Human and guardian, ancient and new, standing together as equals. Across the stars, whispers spread like wildfire. The humans had returned, and their beasts, their guardians, were watching once more. Ethan glanced up at Karanith and murmured, "You broke free and guarded the human student like your own." The creature's eyes glowed softly. Always. Then, with a single powerful beat of its wings, the beast lifted into the sky, and the human followed its gaze, toward the stars that were once theirs and would be again.